Yes, I finally have a definitive answer to whether or not there should be a definable difference between the sound of an SM7B and an SM7DB, and it comes from the source. We're going to get to that in a bit, but first, let's do some viewer questions and comments. Now, if you want to be included in this, drop them down below, and let's go. First observation comes from Danny Lightning Audio Tech, and he says, "You said big butt." Thank you for that insight, Danny. And yes, I like big butts. And I cannot lie, that would make a great song. Next up, and I'm guessing at this name, is it My Studio NY? And he said, "Let's not exaggerate. Making a ribbon mic isn't that hard. If you're trying to make a massive quantities, then yeah, you've got to tool up. But there are plenty of companies out there doing it by hand for not a ton of money." And after that, he mentions home mics in Australia. Very cool. I would love to try those. But a few points on your comment there. First of all, I need to dispel a massive myth. There is no such thing as a handmade condenser or especially a ribbon mic. Yes, there can be stages of the creation of the mic that can be done by hand, as Neumann does. But machining is a massive part of microphone development, as the tolerances are way beyond what human hand-eye coordination can do. And let's be honest, does it matter when a machine screws something together versus a human doing it? No. In fact, proper machine production should be able to do it more uniformly and consistently than any human. What is important is the research and development of the product being done by a human. That is what separates good companies from mass production models of e-waste. And if you look at the home website, well, you see just that. Machining. And frankly, of course you will. Do you think you're going to see somebody sitting at their kitchen table carving out a capsule with a butter knife? No. By the way, you know who you are that gave me the idea for that joke. I can't say, but you know who you are. But the second part of this is, well, you kind of proved my point with your comment. If you're trying to make massive quantities, you gotta tool up your own words, which again is the exact messaging of my video. That tooling up is what separates the serious mic companies from the e-waste ones. So I think we're going in the same direction with our dialogue, but there seems to be a bit of a bias on your end. As for the home mics, I'm going to reach out to them and see what I can set up. Thanks for dropping their name here. Next up, we have Music Subic and Cebu 1774. Is that like Tupi and Binu? They say, "He's making it sound worse than it is. I've used both the H1 and H1N for years, and I didn't know H meant handheld until now. I recommend the H1N for cost and convenience." Thanks, Tupi and Binu, but this wasn't a review of the H1 or H1N that you're commenting on. This was for this, the H1 Essential. And no, I wasn't making it sound worse than it was. Now, while these do not have to be handheld, they're also quite often used in a handheld capacity, especially by news reporters in scrums. And yes, that handheld sound does seem to get pretty bad when you're jostling for a clip from your favorite hockey player. As for anyone that was saying it was the USB cable amplifying the sound, no, it wasn't. This is just a cheap attempt at claiming your money. You decide to fall for it, that's up to you. It's your money. Cheers. Arigata 24544 is up next with this. "I hate knobs for volume. It looks like a toy. Sorry, Mackie fans, you have to use faders, my friendo." Thanks. I kind of agree. I much prefer faders as well, but the whole Mackie fans thing in your comment makes me feel like you're trolling. And I find this level of trolling kind of weird. Now, I'm not calling you out in a mean way, but I'm very much confused by the mindset some people have. I don't understand fans of brands, and I guess subsequently making fun of fans of brands. If a company makes a good product, you can like the product independently of the brand. Dylan in the X32 is a great example. Not a huge fan of Behringer, but loves the X32. Conversely, if a brand releases a piece of garbage and you're a fan of the brand, you don't have to like the half-ass attempt at the crap gear. And to take that even further, you don't have to like everything a brand puts out either. But most importantly, in the grand scheme of things, yes, faders are superior. But it's okay if you own something without faders. Now, we only have time for a couple more. This one comes from Vince Vega 7484, and he says, "Hey, Do you have an idea why my pod mic USB is much quieter now that I'm using XLR compared to the USB-C? I got a Focusrite 2i2 3rd Gen, which arrived yesterday, and I'm a bit puzzled. Thank you, Vince, and yes, I do. Now, this is a good learning experience for a lot of people. The difference you're talking about is gain and how much certain preamps provide. The preamp that is in the pod mic USB has 76 dB of gain, which in the grand scheme of things is a lot. Those are the Revolution preamps from Rode in use, and they are fantastic. The Scarlett 2i2 3rd Gen, on the other hand, only has 56 dB of gain, meaning it can't amplify the sound as much. The 4th Gen of Scarlett interfaces is better with 69 dB.
Nice.
But that is one of the more important specs to look at when you're choosing a new interface. That and EIN. If you want to see a video on what things you should be looking for when you buy an interface, let me know down below. I'm sorry to hear about your issues though, Vince. And finally, and lastly, we're putting this to bed. This comes from Soul and Soul, which by the way is a cool name. They say, the SM7DB looks stupid with the logo and the shiny color. The original is a classic for a reason, and it didn't need a stupid logo on the side to achieve that. Ignore all that. This is the crux of the matter here. Also, from this test, the new one sounds edgier while the classic sounds smoother, which is why we use it. Thank you, Soul in Soul. But I'm gonna die on this hill. The SM7B and the SM7DB are the exact same microphone. So in order to actually prove this, and like the child I am, have the last word on it, I called Shure and spoke with one of the people in their studio applications engineering department. Now, I've called them many times for info, and they have never failed me once. Now, I do have to point out, I was not guaranteed a win on this. I was 99% sure of my ears though. But there was a chance that they could turn around and tell me, nope, we tweaked the capsule a bit. They have done that before. But bless them, they just said, and I quote, they are the same microphone. One just has an inline preamp. That's it. There would be zero difference between the sound of the capsules. I do have to say though, in all the testing scenarios, there's always a margin for error, especially when doing them the way that I do them. I'm not doing anything scientific when I put two mics side by side and alternate between them like I'm doing here. So you may hear minute tonal differences depending on where my mouth is between the two microphones. I am human. And I move around. So the test itself is never going to be a perfect one, but I can say for certainty, there is no difference between these two microphones. And the petulant child inside of me is super happy to announce that. Cheers, guys, and thanks for watching.